Welcome to The Innovators, the podcast where we talk to the people building the future. In each episode, we sit down with technologists, founders, researchers, and engineers who are doing real, impactful work. They're applying technologies in ways that change how we live, work, and think. Whether it's breakthroughs in AI, climate tech, health systems, or digital infrastructure, this show is about the people turning ambitious ideas into working systems. No hype, just thoughtful conversations with the folks making it happen. Back to The Innovators, a podcast about amazing people doing amazing things. Today's amazing people are Josh Knutson and Ryan Fillen of Lium. Not Liam like the like a boy's name, but Lium, an AI powered thing. You guys ingest all kinds of data and do amazing things with it. So welcome, Ryan and Josh. This is actually a first for us because we've never had like a tag team sort of Beastie Boys style. So this is going to be fun.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. So tell us about Lium. I guess Josh, if you want to talk about it a little bit. You're the CEO, right? And Ryan's president.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're co-founders.
Sure.
To say either of us more than capable of being
Mm-hmm.
the lead singer on describing the system. Yeah, I mean, look, the core of it is just, Ryan and I, we saw these language models doing very powerful things. I've built a couple of companies, was a non-technical person, became a technical person, but never had the time to learn, the syntax of Python, for example. And all of a sudden I'm writing code that's like quite good. Well, not writing it, generating it. So we saw how powerful they were. But we also noticed, and Ryan and I've sort of had this like physical world obsession for a long time, and we recognize like there's a whole universe of data out there that this version of language models are not very good at. And so we set out to build a system to allow people who work with those modalities of data that are not, your standard Excel spreadsheet, to give them the capability to have that same experience that I had of like, whoa, I can interact in natural language and really do something powerful here. And so, Lium is fundamentally an agent harness for those technical people out there, or you could call it like a cloud operating system that we give language models, agents, the tools and the structures around them to enable them, empower them to operate over complex, real world, large physical data sets in ways that they can't sort of do out of the box, and that your standard, even Claude Code, cursor coding agents can't do that job very well. So that's the basic premise.
So are we talking about I don't know, a chatbot to I think on your website you kind of have an example like which one of our sites is anomalous or something like that. A chatbot that tells you that, or is it does it build that functionality into another system that allows that system to build using your tools? I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but I just wanted to understand like who is using this? Is it the CEO saying why is this pump not working, or is it the coder who wants to make a pump management system for a massive I don't know, oil company or something like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is where, the barrier between the large, complex physical data, between that and even a data engineer is currently there's a barrier there. But if you extrapolate that further and say, well, can the CEO ask a question of that data or anyone else within an organization? The answer is definitely not. And so, I would say the core user and who we see interacting most often in the platform are subject matter experts who really know their domain, but they're not necessarily like a software engineer or a data engineer. So they sit on a ton of data and they know the answers are in there, but they just can't get the answers out of it. And so we're abstracting that complexity away so they can just ask a question in natural language. And an example of that would be like a farmer. You have a bunch of soil reports. There's NOAA data that's publicly available. You have a bunch of data coming off a tractor. A farm's not performing, but you're not a data engineer. You can't crunch all this data and get the answer out of it. So Lium, in natural language, you can describe what you want. It'll build the tools for you, build repeatable workflows that can surface your answer. And then what happens when you have those tools promoted into the organization's tools or into these shared workspaces is people can then build off of them. And so we see a lot of use cases where an analyst will come in and build a tool, and then the CEO will build a tool on top of it that relies on the output that the analyst had generated. And so it really can be used by anyone in the organization. And that's part of why it's powerful, is it's accessible to everyone.
I think that's the most interesting question. How do you how do you get the farmer to use this, right? The farmer's on a tractor most of the day. It's not like they want to sit there and run Lium potentially. But how do you what's the selling point for the farmer who needs to know what's going on with crop yields based on all this geo data, et cetera?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the AI market right now is that it's like 100% of the market is in the market to buy tools because there's so much hype in this wave of this revolution that, and I would say even that farmer who spends a lot of time on a tractor, they know they have the data. They just know they can't get anything out of it. And so when you combine those and you convey a message to them and you make it simple for them, I mean, that's a huge part of it is, the market for people who are going to use Cursor or Claude Code is a bunch of developers, and that's a very large market. But, we're talking a couple percent of the world's population. The rest of the population, if you can enable them to do this in natural language, it opens up all of these amazing capabilities like Josh was describing and how it empowered him to be a capable engineer. We're empowering them to be capable data scientists. And so, people get really excited about that once they connect the dots and realize that they're actually capable of doing it.
Yeah, and I'll say our real farmer use cases, like there's actually, some people using it in that way. I mean, these are
Yeah, I mean,
people that are running
I'm not.
15 farms.
Yeah, it's not Farmer Joe with with 2 cows and a chicken. It's like, that's actually kind of facetious as well for me to even think that. But it's like, yeah, absolutely. It's like, at what point do I take away from my core competency and say to myself, and very similar to what you did when you started coding, right? When do I move from my core competency of building businesses and decide to start looking at data in new ways? And I think that's a question a lot of people are asking right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just for fun, just to go back on the previous one, like who the users are. It's been a fun thing for us to watch and see how it actually played out. But Ryan talked about like the kind of like the data scientists. Generally speaking, like the CEO or the VP or someone asks them for some analytics report. They go in, they build it, they hand it to them, and then they come back. Oh, tweak this, tweak this, tweak this. But with our system, what we've seen people doing is those analysts go in. They build those, the pipelines, the tools, the workflows, the code that they would write, and then they just bake it into the system. And then they just go back to the CEO and say, here you go, just ask here. Like it will run all the stuff that I would have run anyway. And then the CEO just gets to iterate, right? And we saw with the North Carolina Institute for Climate Studies that we've been working with, like they built a bunch of tools, scientists, researchers build the tools into the system. And then the on-screen meteorologists just come into the system and start asking it questions. And they're looking at us like, how did it know to use the GHCN data? How does it know all these tools? Why did it do that? Well, that's because all the scientists built this for you, And that's been the cool thing to sort of see different people using it a different way as consumers of data, builders of tools, and sort of the ecosystem that emerges. When you put that sort of operating system around the agents.
What does the person who says, oh well, if I can't do this report anymore, I'm out of a job, right? That's kind of like that. I think that's sort of that interstitial period that we're experiencing right now, where you have people who are really, really good at writing these reports and they were able to submit them. Maybe like 2 people read them, and now all I have to do is just have somebody use Lium and all my data, and the reports can be written for me. What does that person do in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the key thing that I think, and this goes to like one of the, so I know we talk sometimes, we've done a little bit of research here, the like failures that we went through. But this is something that sort of emerged in what we learned and as part of this process is human in the loop is the only way to do this. Actually, these language models are not trained. There's not a large enough corpus of text data describing the data sets that we're working with in order to train a language model to just inherently understand the patterns inside of this data, right? And so what we ended up having to build was a platform that will sense and become aware that a user needs to shift into a build mode. And like, we're not going to be able to get this question. We need to step back and extract some domain knowledge from you, human, in order to actually build a tool or a set of things, something in the background to give me the capability, language model, to give you that answer. And so the whole platform is organized around human in the loop, the capacity for the human to interact with the system and that system to extract domain knowledge and then make that concrete. So it doesn't really exist. It doesn't work without a human and their domain knowledge. And the other part of it is like, yes, in a sense, you could say, okay, well, over time, it's going to extract a lot of that domain knowledge and then it will have it all baked in. But the amount of domain knowledge that is out there in these fields and the like absolute ridiculous amount of nuance that exists, we could go for I think literally decades and still be finding more things to extract from the humans and the learning and everything that they've been doing over those, the last several hundred years. So yeah, it's a platform that's human in the loop baked in.
Okay, Ryan, I think you had a comment.
I was going to say, that's exactly right. Like, we are building it to empower the subject matter expert, right? It doesn't replace them because you ultimately need their guidance and expertise. And it's one of those things as well where, like, I feel like most of the people that I interact with that are in this space have come to realize at this point that there's a bit of, they say Javon's paradox. You've probably seen on X and people talking about that, when a tool like this makes people exponentially more productive, there's so much more that they can do. And therefore, it actually increases demand for that role instead of reducing it. And, the fear was that with software engineering, for example, it's like the best use case for LLMs. We have tons of code. It's kind of deterministic in terms of the outcome. It's going to get rid of all the software engineers. And what are you seeing? Those job openings are on the rise because now a software engineer is so much more productive with these tools and their output is so much greater that now there are so many new use cases that are unlocked that in the past you just never would have thought about attempting because you could never justify it economically. And I think you're going to see that. It's starting to emerge, and I think you're going to see that across knowledge work.
Mm-hmm. When do people know that they need your product, and how do you sell to them? Seems like a brand new thing, right? So how does that person in with a massive data set know to come to you guys, and how are you marketing to that person?
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult thing, I would say, because a lot of people think that what we're doing isn't possible. And so I would say that's a hurdle that you have to get over, is just getting them to see and believe that it is. But once you do, that's where it's really fun to work with these people. And, throughout our, you call it like, private beta or pilot phase, we had about 50 different groups working in the platform, and like seeing them have that aha moment and realize that something was fundamentally different about how they could work with this data was fun. And so the challenge is like, how do you convey that to people that aren't getting on a sales call with me, that just find us on the internet? And we're in the early stages of rolling out a lot of our marketing efforts. And, there's a lot of communities that we're targeting online that are pretty densely packed with our target market. And, the reality is if we communicate it effectively, it really resonates with people. And the impact of actually being able to work with this data is enormous in a lot of these cases. And so there's a strong drive to use Lium once people understand it. And, for me, I just think about all the communities online and the various places that they live that we need to target and get in front of them.
I would. Yeah, go ahead, John.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
No, I'd just add that yeah, if this is the fun of it for us, is like it's sort of new and we got to figure out exactly like what the messaging is and how you find people and although we've been live for 3 days and are like, I don't know, I would say like 10% of our marketing capacity right now, just kind of like going live. And we've had 1,000 people hit the thing already, which is pretty exciting. So the messaging is starting to resonate. But it's like, if you are out there and you are trying to learn from data and you're trying to help your organization learn from data and you're trying to share information about that, right? And that is not easy to do. That's the basic premise, It's, in particular, if you are someone who's needing to go and build data pipelines and spin up infrastructure in order to answer that. I mean, that's one of the things here. Like, you can ask a question in a system, and it might require the system to analyze a gig of data, or it might require the system to analyze 100 terabytes of data. You type the same 5-word question, right, underneath the hood. That's a massive difference, right? And so if you are someone out there that knows that, or maybe doesn't understand that, and is like, how do I got to process 50 terabytes of data to answer this question, right? That's when you know that Lium is for you, because in here, we're going to spin up all that compute in the back for you autonomously, automatically. And like, we're going to right size it for what you're doing. We're going to automatically spin it back down. So you're not paying for compute that's sitting up there, right? If you're learning from data and it is hard, we're going to make it easier. It's the basic premise.
Okay. How's fundraising been, especially for AI products?
I'll say this is the fun part of this, just like a little funny anecdote. It was very hard in the beginning because everyone sort of looked at Ryan and I and said, why you guys are going to build a massive AI company? Like what? Because I've built a software company before. I had, written it all the way, did the whole like, VC funding, private equity exit. But it was a healthcare software company. And
Mm-hmm.
like my background is actually in healthcare. Ryan's built companies before as well. He's been in, go-to-market roles at like big startups and all that. But we didn't have the like Silicon Valley AI chops, that everyone expects you to have when you come out with this kind of huge vision that we had. So it was a little bit challenging in the beginning. And in fact, we ended up raising a smaller round in our like pre-seed than we anticipated or were going for. But then about 6 months into that, we were basically doing things that no one thought we were going to be capable of doing. And then we went back to all of our pre-seed investors and we raised the like double, tripled the amount that we raised and like got the funding that we actually needed. So we had to do a little bit of proof in the pudding because we didn't have the the Altmans in our last name that we needed to do that. But after that, once we got the traction, it's been really great. We have a great set of investors. Everybody's been really on board and excited, and we probably be going back out and doing that again here in the next couple of months.
Mm-hmm. What's next for the company?
Go.
Just kidding. Because I mean, you guys started just a couple of days ago, so yeah, it sounds like it might be.
I mean, look, we've been building for we've been learning and building for I don't know, a little over 18 months or so now. And the first 6 to 8 months of that was really just learning. It was just we have no idea how we're going to achieve this or accomplish this. We kind of knew the problem set. And so then, once we kind of figured out the right architecture through many a failure, we went out and we said, okay, this is one of those, I'm from like the startup world where you just build like the tiniest thing possible and then you go take it to market, the MVP, lean startup kind of mentality. And that's what I did with my last company. And it worked great. But this is just a product that like, if you come in here with a terabyte of data, like you can't just build like a tiny version of this thing. It kind of had to be robust. And so we had to kind of just go in the lab and just cook and build alongside design partners. But now that we've done that, we're out there in the world. So what's next for the company is we're learning from real live users out in the wild and building and building around what we learn and seeing how people use it and building features on top of it and just, put the gas on the floor and go is the basic premise. And there's a massive product roadmap of exciting stuff that's also there too. But I don't know, Ryan, curious what your thoughts are on what's next.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's out in the public now, right? Like when we were in closed beta, it was a very different process. It was sales calls, us getting on, working hands-on, teaching them. Now it's a very different motion of trying to market to them, have them come in without ever talking to us and still succeed and get value and share it with their colleagues and hopefully see that same growth. And so, I mean, a few days in, I'm really excited with the numbers we're seeing in our funnel, but it's just, keep optimizing at every stage of the funnel and keep, stay close to our customers. Like I wouldn't say that I'm over focused on like, what is the competition doing or anyone else, with our customers that we talk to, usually the competitor is not knowing that they can do this. And so it's how do we educate them? How do we build a tool that really solves their problem in a meaningful way and just stay close to that and keep driving value. And that's, yeah.
All right, so we'll send folks to lium.ai, lium.ai. Where'd you get the name from?
The old name question. The company was originally Astromind, by the way. So anyone will see lingering Astromind references out there. We started with astrophysics. That was like the very first thing we built around. And then Ryan and I debated for like a year that whether we should change the name or not. But Lium, the L is for language. Eum is the like suffix for a lot of the like elements, physical worlds, right? So this is sort of the like making language elemental, sort of like connecting that physical world to language, and language plus Eum kind of put it together. And there you go. You got.
I'll buy that. Sounds good.
Okay, all right. I'm buying it.
Like aluminum. All right, very cool.
Yeah, you got palladium, aluminum. Yeah.
And this is language element. lium.ai. Thank you guys for joining me. This has been fun. I like the two-person style.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
All right. Perfect. Ryan, Josh,
All right, man.
this has been The Innovators. I'm John Biggs. We'll see you next time.